Hi there, I'm Alison Gold. I'm the founder and chief optimistic anthropologist of Optimistic Anthropology. And I just wanted to share a little bit about a project I undertook this summer related to one of my favorite practices and methodologies that we use in our work called Emergent Learning. And as you might have read in the blog post that we just posted, one of the things that's been a tremendous innovation in the practice of emergent learning has been the development of a set of principles to guide the how of approaching the work. And one of the things that's great about emergent learning is it also is a methodology that works together really well with lots of other ways of working, facilitating, and other methodologies. And so for me, one of the things I've really been interested in is about how do we introduce ideas like the principles of emergent learning to people who aren't familiar with the practice, who aren't familiar with the principles, in ways that are filled with creativity, draw upon the power of art and imagery, and also enable people to learn about something, think about it in their own work, and share it with one another. And so this summer I had a great opportunity to facilitate an introductory workshop for a client collaborator, and I developed a new facilitation tool around the principles of emergent learning. And it includes these amazing illustrations by the Sarajevo-based illustrator, Elma Voloder. And what we tried to do as we collaborated together was to take the principles and try and find an image that's entered people and creativity that were dynamic and sort of captured a little bit of what the principle actually meant. So here's one for making thinking visible. I'll share a couple with you. Here's one she created for returning learning to the system. A personal favorite, because it's a personal favorite principle, asking powerful questions. And then hopefully you can see there's all these wonderful question marks in the background also. And one more, strengthening line of sight. And you can see the goal is right there where they're all looking towards. We created illustrations together for all 9 of the principles. And as I was working together with the great folks I was doing the workshop for, I came up with this idea for an activity where we use these cards as a starting point, these images. And what you will see is that on the back side of these facilitation cards, there's a brief introduction to the principle and then some questions for folks to consider. And so the way the facilitation activity actually worked with these cards was that I laid them out on a surface. And because we had about 16 people in the group, I had 2 of each of the cards printed out and laying out on a surface for 8 of the principles. I kept 1 that I was going to introduce, and then invited people to look at all of them and sort of move towards one that sort of spoke to them, and whether it was visually it was interesting, that the phrase of the principle was of interest to them, or something else. And just to keep it so they only were looking at the side with the image on it. And then find the other person who had the same card. And then together they went off for about 20 minutes and shared with each other what drew them to the card, turned it over, together read the description, a basic introduction to that principle, and then had a discussion about the questions. Then we all came together as a full group, and each of the teams introduced a principle of emergent learning to everyone else who was in the room. And together we put all 9 of the images up on the board. And then it really grounded the rest of our day in discussion that we got to have together around emergent learning. So as we played with the tools, like before and after action reviews, we could refer back to ideas related to that as well. So that's a brief introduction to the facilitation cards and activity that we developed. As I've started to share this with other emergent learning practitioners, one of the things that's been excited is people are really excited about these images. and about this activity. And so I'm trying something new. I am a sole proprietor, run a very small business. Working with an illustrator was an outlay of finances, and it took time to develop something like this that, that she was compensated for, but I specifically wasn't. And so we are making digital versions of both a set of the illustrations and a set of these cards available for download on the Optimistic Anthropology website. So if that's of interest to you, we've tried to make them like very reasonable in cost. They are under a Creative Commons license, so you are welcome to share them and use them with others for educational purposes. But we ask that you not remix them or use them for commercial purposes. If you're going to be using them for educational purposes, all we ask is that you please note that the source of this tool and these images is Optimistic Anthropology. And you will see that when you both agree to download it, as well as in some information you'll receive with your set. We'd love to hear some other ways that you might use these cards and images in your work. We're constantly thinking of new ones, but this one was so useful, and the client we worked with was so psyched about it that even the lead on their team asked if she could keep a set of the cards so she could have them in her office all the time. And I just think there's something beautiful about being able to use art and imagery, creativity, and group learning. And it feels super aligned with the practice of emergent learning. So thanks so much. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach me at Alison@optimisticanthro.com.